Hello and welcome to Massive Crit. In this video we're going to have a go at painting the Voidscarred Corsairs. Disclaimer, this is the first painting video I've ever tried. I've not yet seen the footage, it may all be useless. I broke the first model I tried to paint, these Eldar are pretty fragile. And I'm an average painter, so if I try to give any advice, take it with an ocean of salt. Away we go. So here we have the Felarch, or Felarch, I don't know which one it should be. I've assembled the Felarch without the banner because I don't see how banners have a place in covert operations. It will also make the model faster to paint, and I'd probably end up breaking it anyway, like I did with the Wayseeker's staff in take 1. I have not attached the front tabard loinclothy thingy yet because I thought it would be easier to paint without it. I have sprayed the model with grey Seer because I wanted a bright undercoat to make that green armour pop like a champagne bottle. No Zenithal highlights because I haven't got around to trying it out yet. Let's begin. I've started by painting the underside of the cloak with Ushabti Bone because if I left it until after the armour was done I'd probably end up slathering the Ushabti Bone all over it. So best to get it out of the way now. The first colour for the armour is Sotek Green, and I found it's best to use 2 thin coats, so I won't clog up any of the detail. I will apply this to the upper legs, arms, chest and torso. Just like this. Next, I will wash all over the previous step with Akhelian Green, which does suspiciously look blue in the bottle, but definitely green when applied. I'm applying the wash quite thick because I want it to pool in the recesses. And this is how it looks afterwards. Whilst the Akhelian Green dries, I will paint the rest of the armour in Abaddon Black, and despite this being a black, the coverage is pretty shoddy over the grey Seer undercoat, so again it's best to apply in 2 thin layers as not to obscure the filigree, which I'll later need to paint. Next, I will apply Black Templar to some of the deepest recesses of the green armour, but only in between the leg plates and under the arms. The Akhelian Green would have pooled in the recesses of the upper parts of the armour, which will be sufficient. Now I have completed the black stages, I will brighten the green armour back up with the Sotek Green, covering up any mistakes I've made with the black. I will be applying this as a highlight, so leaving the Akhelian Green of the previous step in the recesses. And this is what our Felarch should look like at this stage. At this point, I'm missing some footage of me painting the Khorne Red, but not to worry, we can see that I have painted the back of the cloak for those strong Captain Hook vibes and also the outer parts of the belt. After this, I'm just applying grey Seer to tidy up all the areas that I want to apply contrast paints to later, such as all the leather areas and the grenade and the fur. So unfortunately no useful footage here, but I've just painted the one ribbon on the pistol arm in Skreamer Pink. Now I will use Retributor Armour on all the gold areas, such as the filigree on the outside and inside of the shins, the cutlass of the sword, and not forgetting all of the casings of the soul stones around the Felarch's person. When painting the filigree, I find it's best to use the side of the brush very lightly, with not too much paint on the brush to minimise mistakes. Now I'm going to start hitting areas with contrast paint, starting with Snakebite Leather, which I think is perfect for the box art vibes which I'm going for. I'm going to be applying 2 layers of the Snakebite Leather, so I want the first layer to be even and thin. I don't want it pooling too much in the recesses. The second layer of Snakebite, I want to mix in some water, about 50-50. This will make the contrast paint a lot easier to control, and I can manipulate it into areas where I want it thicker and pooling. Next is the Nuln Oil. No paint job is complete without it. I'm just going to heavily wash this all over the Khorne Red to give an old greasy feel to the cape. Not forgetting the red bits on the belt as well, which you can barely see, but they're there. A quick step to add Magos Purple to the arm ribbon I painted Skreamer Pink. I then add a healthy wash of Apothecary White to the fur on the cloak and both those tassels, just the one on the backpack and the one on the arm there. Another quick step to add Incubi Darkness to the underside of the pistol and the handle. Now I'm going to highlight the cloak with Evil Sun Scarlet, and again I will be applying 2 thin layers, making sure to keep the recesses as they were. One thing I love about the Corsair lore is that each one carries trophies and adorns their armour differently, so this is why I've gone for a Captain Hook red on the cloak, because the Felarch is the leader. I will keep the armour the same throughout my kill scene for coherency, but I'll definitely change like the cloaks and the ribbons and the fur, because in the grim darkness of the far future, there's got to be style. Next, I'll hit the gold on the sword with Reikland Fleshshade, but just the gold on the sword. I didn't bother with the rest, like all the filigree and things, because I'll just need to highlight it back up again, so I'll just leave that the way it is. Now I'm moving on to the main highlight of Templar Blue. Here I left a mould line on top of the shin to give me an easier job at highlighting, and again I'm using the flat end of my brush to highlight the black armour, and I'm also using the same colour to highlight the green armour, but only the extreme edges just to give a bit of pop to the armour. I hit all the silver areas with Canoptek Alloy. I like the silver because it seems interesting enough without applying a wash of Nuln Oil, which saves some time. I apply it to the sword and all the buckles of the leather straps, and to finish the sword I apply a 50-50 mix of Canoptek Alloy and Retributor Armour to the edge of the blade. I then highlight with Stormhost Silver. Then I apply Talassar Blue to the Neuro Disruptor. I highlight the cloak with Screaming Scull. And I clean up the underside and the edges of the cloak. Next, I apply Black Templar to the hair because I hope this will leave the tip slightly brighter with the contrast seeping into the recesses, saving me from highlighting it again afterwards. Retributor Armour for the eye patch. Pallid Witch Flesh for the skin tone. Followed by a glaze of Magos Purple all over the face. I paint the hockey mask thing with Wraithbone, but also the grenade down on his belt. I then touch up his face with Pallid Witch Flesh again, just leaving that Magos Purple in the recesses. I then glaze the entire face with Reikland Fleshshade, just to give it a bit more warmth. I do shade the bone areas with Seraphim Sepia as well. I don't know where the footage went, but I then use white just to paint all the gemstones. I don't like the GW white, so I use Vallejo instead, but use whatever white you've got. I then apply Blood Angel's red to the gemstones on the breastplate and sword once the white is dry. Magos Purple for the gemstone on the shoulder, if that is a gemstone, and on the gemstones just hanging off his backpack there. Ork Flesh to the eyepiece because it's the only green contrast I've got. And finally Scrag Brown for the base because I just thought that colour would make it pop the most. I can now attach his loincloth on and use the same methods to paint that. The white fur was looking a little white, so I added some spludge stains with Agrak's Earthshade, followed by Nuln Oil just in the centre to give it a deeper sort of stain. And there we have the finished Felarch. I really like how this paint job came together, and the finish seems to be quite close to the box art, which I love, and the base just makes the colours pop out more. I think he looks pretty tasty. So there we have it, and I've got to apologise for that dodgy camera work, but there's a lesson in every new endeavour, and that lesson for me is that my painting style inevitably will give me the posture of the Hunchback of Notre Dame and some really bad painting videos. But I hope you found some enjoyment out of that or found any of it useful. I'll put some screenshots in the end screen of the mini, and until next time, may you always crit massive.